Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another live stream here on Free Will Photos. Today we are going to be working in the single filter challenge, or I'm going to be doing the single filter challenge, I should say. Now, for those of you who are just meeting me, my name's Chris. I am the content creator here on this channel, as well as the, I guess you can call me a mentor, so to speak, or a coach in editing photos. So if you got questions about editing photos throughout the live stream, you can drop those into the chat. And if you're watching this on the replay, then you can put those into the comment section. I'm more than happy to help you out. Now, I am going to be using a combination of Lightroom and ON1 today. For various reasons that I won't necessarily get into because it's not as important. However, what I will say is if you want to save a little bit of money when you purchase ON1 Photo Raw, if you don't have it already, if you're upgrading, whatever your circumstance or situation is, you can save a little bit of money using my coupon code FreeWillPhotos20. All right. I do make a small commission off of everyone who uses it, and I greatly appreciate that. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the computer so we could take a look at what we're going to be doing today. So what you see here is me inside of Lightroom. I was just cleaning up a little bit of sensor dust issues, if you will. I still got a little bit more, but for the particular image that we're going to use the filter on, we'll say that this is good. All right. So let's go ahead and get ON1 fired up. So the way that I'm going to do that is right click on the image here inside of Lightroom, come over to edit in, and then click edit in ON1 develop suite. All right. I'm going to file or send this over as a TIFF file. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit edit. Those are my settings if you want to take a look at that and do it for yourself. Otherwise, we're just going to keep it moving. And while that comes up, I'm actually going to grab a screen here. And so I know I'm looking off to the side here, but hopefully it'll make sense here in a little bit. And let's see if, there we go. There goes ON1. It's firing up and it is now open. All right. So the way that this challenge is going to work is I have a randomizer wheel here. And what I'm going to do is use one of the filters. I went ahead and put all of the filters, and I even put local adjustment in here as part of the single filter challenge. So here's the rules that I have kind of set for myself, and this is something that I do regularly. So, you know, if you want to try to do this for yourself, then by all means, go ahead and do this for yourself. But the rule that I have is I can only use one filter and I have to make 3 photos or 3 distinctive looks. Now they can't be, you know, dare I say crappy or bad looks. I know that that's all subjective. They should look like something that is a finished piece of work at some point. That's the goal of stretching yourself and becoming more creative. And the whole reason I do this, it's kind of like when you walk around with a 50mm lens on your camera for a month, you start to see in 50mm and you start to photograph things in that particular focal length, and you know what your limitations are, right? So that's the reason why I do this. Same concept happens with filters. Hey, Mark, good morning. Good morning from Dominican Republic, my man. So I'm going to go ahead and spin the wheel and see what filter we're using today, and we'll keep it going. So we are okay. We're using the sun flare filter. Now, the reason I use the randomizer is purely because I need to randomize the way that, you know, these things come up. And I don't know how the sun flare filter is going to work on this particular image. But that's the fun of the challenge, all right? So let's go ahead and give this a shot. One other thing, I do use the basic tonal adjustments, all right? Now, when I say basic tonal adjustments, I mean the tonal adjustments inside of the develop module. All right. That doesn't count as a filter because it's not in effects, it's not in local, and depending on what type of image you're working on, you may need to do that to help yourself get the best look possible. And I still want to create something that's nice or relatively nice. So here we go. Let's go ahead and just turn on Brilliance AI because for those of you who don't know, Brilliance AI, it essentially just grabs all of the sliders that are inside the tone and color, as well as noise and sharpening, and it does a basic adjustment for me. Now, like I mentioned before, I got a bunch of sensor spots on here. So what I think I want to do is actually darken the overall background here. So the way that I'm going to do that, I'll come into tone and color, and I am going to pull down on the exposure and maybe pull up on the highlights, because the moon, this was shot just before sundown, or yeah, like the sky was really blue, as you can see, and then maybe even pull down on the black point. And for me, I think that that gives me something to start with. Yeah, we'll see how that works out. Maybe add in a little bit of haze. I don't know. Yeah, we'll say something like that looks good. All right. So now it's time to jump into the effects and see what we can do with this particular image. All right. The sun flare filter. Here we go. So let's add it. And okay, instantly this gives me the idea that I want to make some sort of eclipse type of photo. Now, I don't know if it really is going to be an eclipse, but we'll add a sun flare and see what happens, right? So let's go ahead and pull down the amount, which I think is actually kind of cool that we can do that there. And let's grab the transform tool so I can move this around. And we got some banding going on. And I think that's just because of the overall size. Let me see if I increase the scale. Yeah, that banding goes away. We just kind of lost it off to the left side of the image there. And if you're not familiar with banding, it's this area right here. It's like when, or yeah, whatever. It's this area right here when you start to see the separation between the brightest area to the darkest area, and it doesn't look very flattering. So we'll do something like that. I think maybe pull it. Why does it keep doing this? I just want it to go where I want it to go. Go where I tell you to go. Yeah, we'll do something like that. All right. So the next step that I would probably do with this particular image is mess around with some of the saturation and see if I can get, a really interesting look overall. You could play with the hue shift. Maybe that could do something for us. Not entirely sure. Nah, maybe we'll just bring all that back. I wasn't getting anything that was overly impressive. And then let's see, we got the sunshine segment down here. Okay, that's helping with bringing up some of the tonal values on the moon. Let's see here. And this is all trial and error, by the way. I like what's happening with the sky when I pull up on the saturation. So I think this could be the first look. Now, let me pull down the amount slider here. Yeah, I'll call this the first look. I think that is distinctively different than where we started. So this is where we started, and this is where we've gotten so far. So I think I'll call this look number one. Let's go new snapshot and look one. All right, now let's go ahead and, I'm just going to go ahead and reset. I don't need to delete it. And let's try a different sun flare. So there's the filter is what I have to use. I don't have to necessarily use a sun flare, and bokeh is in here. So maybe we can turn these into like some little stars in the dark background. All right. So let's see if there are, okay, that looks kind of cool. Trying to see if there's something that could be potentially used. That could be used actually. That little, that flare that was coming off there. This might actually work. I like this one too. We'll go with this one for now, and then maybe I'll come back to that other one. So this has some oranges, yellows, reds, and that doesn't quite fit the feeling of the overall image right now. So let's go ahead and see if we can change that. And that could be cool, but I think this is more like what, not what I want to go with, but something that I could probably work with. I don't want to desaturate it. Maybe push the saturation just a touch. I say just a touch, it's up at 12. We'll bring down the brightness, and let's play with the scale. I can't make it smaller, but I can make them a little bit larger. Let's go with the sunshine, because that seems to usually do something that I like, and makes this image really, really blue when I pull up the saturation. But if I pull up on the fade, that looks like the sky that we had originally, and that could work. Let's see, before, after, maybe. Okay. Now, this is distinctively different than what we had in the original, or the first look. And I think I'm going to call this look number 2. So we'll go look 2. Now, one of the things that I like to do in this particular challenge, and this is how I experiment a lot, is I'd like to select the filter and then jump over to the blending options. Now, if you don't know what the blending options do, that's perfectly fine. Just hover over them and see what happens to the image. Like this one, it's making the overall image dark, and I could maybe get by with that if I did some masking. Now this looks pretty cool. Puts like a blue outline over the moon. I'm not going to do that. I'm just kind of going through these to see which one I like. I like color dodge as well on there. That looks pretty good. Then we have overlay, soft light. Those look pretty good as well. That's not too bad. So, I can make a lot of different looks, is essentially what I'm trying to show with this challenge. And why I bring this challenge to the channel, because I think there's some value in just experimenting. All right. I'm going to go with hard light. I'm going to pull down the opacity here of the overall adjustment. Probably something about there. And then I'm going to grab the masking brush, and I'm going to remove this from the moon. Now, I feel like I did myself a disservice by doing that, because the moon now looks dull compared to the rest of the image. So what I'm going to do is actually fade that in. So I'm going to grab the opacity, and I'm going to bring it down to about 30. I'm going to hit Shift X so I can paint in, and I'm going to paint in about 30% opacity over the moon. And I'm really just going to paint this all back in, maybe do one more pass down here until it like kind of blends well, right? I think that looks pretty good, the way that it's blending in. It's not taking the full effect. It's just taking a portion of it because the background of that bokeh overlay or bokeh texture, if you will, is going to give us this saturation, and I put it more into the blue hue, or I shifted it towards a blue hue. So we'll call this look number 3. Mark says, very creative. Very creative. Here, let me pull this over. Make it more centered. There we go. Very creative, but I think more coffee is required to get into a sun flare on the moon. Yeah. Now, you're not wrong. Honestly, when you are dealing with a challenge like this, it's really not about the photo entirely. Obviously, you have to make the filter make sense to the photo, but what you're really doing is stretching your idea and understanding of what you can do, because ON1 is like, it's like a science lab, right? You could do a lot of things in a science lab. If you ask yourself the right questions, you can set up the parameters so that way you can explore. And that's the whole goal here, is to grab something, put it onto an image and say, okay, how can I use this? How can I explore? So that's the reason why I do it. Now, let's go ahead and reset this one more time. And instead of that sun, we're going to do a sun star. All right. We're going to do a sun star. And then let's come over. And I think I'm having the issue because I'm using a TIFF file, and I don't know what these overlays are. They're probably JPEGs, and they may or may not be as high resolution, but that's okay, because when you are handed a problem, you just work differently. And that's what we're going to do here in a little bit. I just need to find one that I like, because I think I like this effect over the moon. And what I'm going to do is paint it in behind the moon, so that way kind of, maybe we'll do this. I'm going to scale it up because I want those little streaks to go a little bit longer, and that also helps with cleaning up those edges that don't transition well with this photo. And then all I'm going to do is take the erase again with a lower opacity. I'll probably go about 70 on this one, and all I'm going to do is paint over and erase this from the moon on the front end, because it can be on the back side of the moon, even though the back side of the moon is supposed to be dark, if I remember correctly. But I may be wrong, and that's okay too. I'm all right with being wrong. I'm often wrong. All right, and then I think I need to repaint in some of this area around the corner here, or around the edge. There's no corners on a moon, so maybe we'll do something like that, but I need to paint that at a lower opacity. So let's make our opacity maybe somewhere around 15. And yeah, you see how that just blends in a lot better. And I'll get right here near the brightest area, and I like to make my brush smaller when I paint in these finer areas like this, which is really just me reintroducing the star effect around the moon. Now, I want to go a little bit further with this particular look, because I'm actually starting to have a little bit of fun here. And this is a good time to practice intersecting masks inside of ON1. So what I'm going to do is grab my masking bug, and I'm going to use a gradient. I'm just going to drag up. I need to rotate this. And what I want to do is intersect this with the moon right here at the bottom, like so. And what that's doing is it's adding the filter up here at the top, but not down here at the bottom. And I'm perfectly fine with that. Now, sorry, had to clear my throat. Now what we'll do is come over here to the density slider, and I could just pull down on this density slider, and you can see how that starts to bring back this this look. So maybe somewhere around here is probably fair. Maybe not. I don't want to do that. Let's do something else. Let's add another sun flare filter. And I know I've already got my 3 looks on this image, but again, this is how my creativity or my thought process goes. I just start experimenting, and I'm just going to do this really, really quickly. We'll put another one right over the top of the first one. So it's really going to be like bright and crazy, and I'll even increase the brightness. And then we'll scale this one up as well. So now what I need to do is position it. So I'm going to grab the transform tool, and I'm going to drag this right over the top there, like so. Okay. And, you know, when you have other filters that you can start to add on top of this, this challenge really does open up your creativity. But I'm going to stick to the single filter and see, you know, exactly what we can do. And I wonder, do I want to mess with the, no, I think maybe make it a little bit more warm. And let's see, maybe. Yeah, I'm just trying to make this like really bright, and I don't know, do I want a different color? I could go with a different color, but I don't think I will. I think we'll just keep it where it was and maybe make it a little less subtle, because it could be right in your face, and that's okay. All right, so maybe something like that. And now what I need to figure out is how much of this do I want to remove from the actual moon itself. So let's grab the brush tool, hitting the letter B on my keyboard, and I'm going to hit Shift X to go to paint out or erase. And I'm working with a 14% opacity here, and my brush feather is 100%. So that means I'm going to have a soft edge brush. And I'm just going to paint this away. And we'll just see how this all works out, right? Again, this doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be something, right? It's all art. And what I could do, you know, I can come over to develop, and I can grab the saturation slider here, pull that all the way down. Now this sun flares really look cool. I'm glad I came over here to do this. Let's pull down on the overall exposure. I'll open up some, nope, don't want to open the shadows. I think it's the mids. No, we'll leave the mids alone too. All right, we'll just contrast it a little bit more. Yeah, now we're starting to get like this outer space look, and it's making the, at least in my mind, right? I'm not saying this is perfect by any means or any stretch of the well, I guess by the stretch of the imagination, I am kind of saying, you know, it looks good, but I don't know. I kind of like it. It's different. It's not something that is expected. It's not something that should even be, but it is. And that's what I like about it. And that's the fun of working in photo editing applications. I'm not entirely certain that this would be like a piece of work that I put into a portfolio. But what if you're doing a sci-fi photo shoot and you need a backdrop? This could be it. It doesn't have to make sense in sci-fi. Like most things in sci-fi don't make sense, right? But this could be something that you could add to that shoot. And yeah, I'm actually liking this one a lot too. I think that this looks really cool. It looks artistic. And if I weren't using, let me see if I can fully flush out. No, I'm not going to be able to do it here. Okay. So let me right click. I'm going to do a duplicate layer. Now, what I'm about to do is, let's go new stamp layer. I'm not using another filter. So in my mind, I'm not breaking the rules. I'm kind of just bending them a little bit because what I needed to do is get the structure slider available to me in the develop tab and be able to pull down on that and soften the entire image. I want to soften the sun flares as well as soften the background. So to do that, I needed to have a structure slider. Now, that didn't soften it enough for me, but relative to the other image, you could see, hopefully YouTube isn't compressing this like crazy, but hopefully you could see that this is kind of working out. So I'm going to, I like the softer version, but I'm not going to go with it. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this. So let's delete that layer and we'll delete the other layer so we get back to just the single layer. That was just another method of creating, but I do like this overall look. Maybe I can make it a little bit darker, but I don't like how that's darkening the moon because I want the moon to stay relatively bright. So if I was able to mask this the way that I want to, then that would work. I could probably use a local adjustment, but again, you see hopefully what I just showed you is when you use the single filter or when you do the single filter challenge, you start to think like, okay, I like what this is doing, but I don't like what's happening here. How can I fix that problem? And that's kind of what I was doing here. I created those extra layers so I can get another structure slider that would impact the entire image with the sun flares baked into it. And then just now when I was pulling down on the exposure, I was like, hey, I really want to bring up the brightness on the moon. Now, let me go ahead and make this look number 4. So I overdid what I needed to. And, using a sun flare filter on a photo of a moon, who would have thought that that could work? I think this is the best look out of the 4. And this is something that I would probably at least share this with people and say, hey, look, this is what a sun flare would look like on the moon. I don't know. But now that I've finished at least the challenge with this photo, I'm going to go to local adjustment and I am going to correct the issue that I was having. And I'm going to bring up my opacity. We'll go with 56 and I'm just going to make it about the size of the moon and just kind of paint this in because I want the moon to be brighter in the image. And I might even bring up the structure. I'm going to open up the shadows on it, increase the exposure, and then also pull up on the contrast. And let's bring up the whites Yeah. See, I wanted something like where the moon doesn't get lost in the overall uh, exposure reduction. So if I turn this off and turn it back on, you can see the moon actually pops. And this is what I like. Now, obviously, I broke the rules of the single filter challenge because I did use a local adjustment. But that's the point of doing this challenge. Now, I'm going to make this look 5 just because I think that that's important. All right. I really do appreciate this. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit the check mark. That'll send us back into Lightroom. And we'll do this on another photo. So hopefully, enjoying the journey that we're going on here with these images. And so there's our first one. Now, the second one, I think I'll do with a portrait. And you know what? I'll do a self-portrait. Yeah. It's a photo of me from many, many years ago when I was much younger, and all is well now. So let's go ahead and just right-click this and edit in ON1 Photo Raw. And yeah, I'm still going to send it as a TIFF with 16-bit. I think that that's good. We'll hit edit. And while that pulls up, let's get let me come over here and grab my randomizer wheel. And let's see what we will be working with. So we'll let that spin around. Nope. ON1 came and took over the screen. All right, the grunge filter. Yes, that's what I wanted to add to myself. Grunge, yay. All right, let's hit close and minimize that. So now I'm going to add grunge. Now, I think that the exposure overall is good in this image, so I'm likely not going to use Brilliance AI to get a good base canvas. Instead, what I'm going to do is just jump straight into adding the grunge. And if I need to, then I'll go ahead and add in the Brilliance AI at the end, because I think I'm going to need to brighten some areas of the overall image. So that's where the grunge filter is going to come in handy. But here we are. And let's go ahead and pull up on the amount. Let's really grungify this image. Let's see if I pull up on the brightness. That's kind of cool. Saturation. Okay, I like that. I like that. Let's see what happens if I add some film grain. Now the grunge filter, I love when I get a filter that has a lot of different, I guess, sections, if you will, right? Because if I just minimize that, I have the grunge section, I have the glow section, and I have film grain. There's a lot of variety for me to really play around with here. And, if I wanted to maybe add in a little bit of a glow, let's see. And, you never know what you're going to get for the filter when you randomize it. But let's go with overlay strong. I don't like that. Let's go with soft light. Yeah, soft light might do us some good. And I really need to remove this from my face because that doesn't look very good. So let's go 100% removing from the face. Yeah, like that. It's okay everywhere else. It doesn't bother me. And then let's see what happens when you increase some of the detail. Cranking up on the detail here. Okay. And maybe pull down, or yeah, we'll pull the brightness down a little bit more. And let's add more film grain, make it more noticeable. The only downside to the film grain filter or option that is baked into the grunge filter is you don't get to choose the type of film grain. So, every film stock that they tried to mimic here doesn't always come through. So now what I can do is come over to develop, and because I haven't touched any of my base exposure options, I can move around the midtones. That kind of works. I can maybe darken the black point and open the shadows just a little bit. And then let's see what happens if I contrast it. Yeah. Now, this again is by no means a really, really great photo. But if I were to pull down on the saturation, the grunge filter seems to work best, in my opinion, on black and white images. So I think that's what I'll make for the first look. So new, and we'll go look 1. And then let's go ahead and I'm going to leave it on black and white, but we're going to come back over to the effects. And in fact, I'm going to use Brilliance AI, and then I will come back and make this black and white. Or I guess it left it black and white for us. So that's great. And let's reset the grunge filter. And I'm going to do my best to make this grunge look. I'm probably going to end up using 2 different filters. So let's pull down on the brightness, and this one's going to be just for the background. And I'm going to detail that, and then I'm going to paint this away from myself and the sky. Now the way to do that, click on the mask, hover over the masking option here, and I want paint out of people and sky. And then I'm going to hit apply. Now it selected the other people in the frame, which is fine because I'm just going to go paint it in over them. And that's all good. So we got that going. And now let's hit Shift X and let's put this. Didn't realize I need to be a little bit more careful on that person just because of where he is. His head is intersecting with the sky. But these people and those people back there, not a problem. And then of course I got to get around here. So I'm going to hit Command and R. And that's going to let me stay relatively on top of just the people that are here. I'm going to turn that off and paint that in on just this person. And it's okay if it goes over me a little bit. I'm not going to be a stickler for perfection on this today because it's live and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time just trying to clean up a mask. All right. So we're going to call this good, like so. Boom. So now that I have the mask the way that I want it, I'm going to go ahead and call this grunge background. So just put BG and then add another filter. And this one, I'm going to select people. And I wonder what foreground does. What does foreground? Yeah, does the same. So, and then this one is going to be paint in and hit apply. And we are going to work with this. Let me hit the letter O so I can clean up the mask. And I'm going to paint these people away. So it's all even. Boom. Hit the letter O. And now we have just me. I know that this person is probably somewhere in there, but it's okay. And then I'm just going to brighten this up and maybe pull down on the overall amount, include a little bit more detail, just a touch more. And now that I think about it, maybe I'll go to the background version and pull the detail down. Yeah. And this is just, you know, as you experiment with the grunge filter, yeah, we'll probably do something like that. And then I'll add a little bit of a glow. Let's make it a little bit of a darker look. I don't know. Nah, no glow. No glow this time, y'all. Yeah. I think we'll go something like that. Now, out of curiosity, I want to see what this looks like in color, because sometimes I can think I actually like it in color almost more than black and white, especially if I maybe add in some vibrance. And let's warm it up just a little bit. Maybe saturate it a touch more. Yeah, I actually like it more in color. Like, this is the original. This is what we came into ON1 with. And this is where we are right now. So I actually kind of like this. So, all right, this will be look number 2. All right, time for the final look. Let's see what we can do to make the final look. Let's go ahead and reset our effects. So the way I'll do that is just hit the reset button up here at the top of my effect stack, hit add filter, and we're going to add in a grunge. And this one will be in color. So let's saturate it. See what happens there. And I feel like this photo is just really in need of making making it a little bit brighter. Let's see if a blend mode will help us a little bit better here. And I don't think lighten is the right one. Screen overshoots it all, or overexposes everything. So maybe we'll go somewhere around, maybe we'll go with lighten. Let me turn it off and on. It's very subtle. If I pull down, and this is where sometimes you get a little stuck, or I get stuck trying to come up with this. So let's go back to normal. Let's bring the detail all the way down. Okay. This could be a look. Let's see here. I'll pull up the exposure. Let's come over here and expose the image even more. And then what I'm going to do is paint this away from myself. So going through the whole process of painting that away from myself, paint out people, apply. And actually painting it away from the people doesn't look bad. I actually kind of like that. I'm not mad at that. So maybe do something like that. I wonder if a glow helps at all. And then if I crank this all the way up to 100 for the film grain, make it a little bit larger. I'm really just trying to get rid of that color banding. Maybe pull away the saturation. And now you get like a color pop effect with just the people. Maybe too strong, so I'll pull that down like so. And I think that could be look number 3. Not the greatest. Again, the purpose of doing this is just to experiment and stretch your imagination and your overall ability to edit the file. So let's go ahead and put that back into Lightroom. So I think, make sure everything is still working here. There we go. All right. So hopefully you found some value in doing the single filter challenge and find it to be a fun, creative way to learn how to use the software and to see your photos a little bit differently. If you got questions about, what type of photos you should use, the answer, or the best answer I can give you, is whatever photo you choose to use. I purely, I essentially just used a photo of a moon that I photographed the other day, and then this photo that I guess my wife may have taken of me years ago. This is probably in like 2014, 2015, I don't know, almost a decade ago. But what I will do is in the description, I will leave the link to the randomizer wheel that I used here, because this is a lot of fun for me. If I choose the filter, then it's not as much fun. But when you get to randomize it, it is a little bit more fun. And it's, my pleasure, Mark, to definitely bring, just fun things to the channel. Hit the mic. Fun things to the channel and different ideas to your creative processes. That's the whole reason I started this. That's why my tagline is inspired by creativity. Creativity does not always equal good. It just equals creative. And sometimes you have to get all of the bad ideas out of the way to get the good one to come out. And as I showed a little bit earlier, that moon image that I was editing was essentially the exact same issue. It was overall, it came out good, in my opinion. Let's take a look here. Jump back over to the computer. I think this came out looking really, really good. I didn't expect to make that today. When I sat down, I promise you, I didn't script this. I didn't rehearse this. Hopefully it looked like or it was evident in the process of me making this particular image. It was obvious that I did not script this or make this up. I was literally thinking of it on the fly. Now, I do have a little bit of repetition because this is a drill that I do at least twice a month, sometimes a little bit more frequently, and never really as long as this particular video has been. I usually do it and it's like, okay, that's good. And sometimes I surprise myself and I'm like, wow, this is really great. But the reason I'm able to kind of jump through different filters and think of different things is because of this single challenge. And that's why I want to share it with you guys. And my plan is every Wednesday morning, or as often as I can, get onto a live stream at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to come and showcase how you can use this challenge. We'll use the randomizer wheel. And, if there's subscribers that want to share their images, just send me an email and we'll figure out how to get those, and I will be more than happy to use your image. So then it's purely like I didn't even create the image, so I don't even have an idea of what I want to do. It's just going to go into ON1 and I am going to execute the single filter challenge. So I'm probably going to post this picture of the moon on Vero just because the more I look at it, the more excited I get about it. And that's the fun of this particular challenge. So yeah, hey, Mark, I'm looking forward to more too. And in fact, I would love to see, if this is something that yourself or others want to try and do for themselves, to share their images, and we can kind of showcase those every week. So if you take the single filter challenge, or if you do this and you're willing to share what look you like the most, right? Your most favorite look for that particular week of doing the challenge, then I think it would be value added to showcase those here on the channel, to show that other people are doing this and you're not alone when you try to do it. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know in the comment section below, and we'll make a complete segment. We'll start out this particular live stream with the work of those who have done the single filter challenge, because the goal here is to build a community of people who are not intimidated by the capabilities of ON1 or any photo editing application for that matter, but instead embrace the fact that you can completely understand how to use the software and create the look that you're going for. Sometimes you may not be able to create it right away, like the look of the moon that I'm really happy with. Yeah, I'm just blown away. The more I look at it, I'm like, man, that's a sun flare filter on a moon. In no world does that logically make sense. But because I was forced to do it, it worked that way. Not so much with the grunge filter on myself, but it is what it is. So again, I don't want to sit here and ramble for the sake of rambling. I'd love to hear you guys' questions and your feedback, and how, if you're doing the single filter challenge, how that's going for you. And it's okay if it's challenging. All right. It's okay if it's hard. It's okay if it's confusing. Don't worry about it. Just try it, keep working at it, and you don't have to share those images. All right. But the more you do it, the more you're going to learn how the software works and what you can do. And you get yourself out of this, this standard box idea of the only way that you can edit a photo or use this filter is the way that you've seen me use it or the way that you've seen someone else use it. All right. I want you to use it the way that you figure out how to use it, and then create something that is amazing for your own work. All right. So I'm going to leave it there. I would love to hear your guys' questions and comments down in the comment section below. I'll leave a link to that randomizer so you can use it yourself and, you know, randomize your own, pick your own journey almost, or randomize your own journey with this challenge. So until next time, I want you guys to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.